for coming and welcome to our joint accessibility committee meeting, and it's the final one for 2024. So we've got some great things to talk about, accomplishments that we've achieved and good things upcoming. And we will get into that presently. But I first would like to welcome everyone who's here. We've got one visitor with us. Hilary Martin is from the Easter Seals Canada program. She's here to talk to us about the Access to Card program. And we also have some representatives from our lower tier townships, Don Newhook and Adam Thorne from Algonquin Highlands, Andrea Mueller from Dysart, Vicky Bull is here from Minden, and I think Minden. Vicky, are you alone from Minden? I think today.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Yeah. Great. Well, you're very, very welcome. And we have regrets from Robin Rogers and Jim Alden from Highlands East, but I know that they're with us in spirit, and we'll hear from them next year. And in terms of the roll call, I think we are all here, save Councillor McKechnie and Benin is not here, and Ashley. And apart from that, I think we are all present, which is just great. So we respectfully acknowledge that the County of Haliburton is located on Treaty 20 Mississauga territory and in the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. We acknowledge a shared presence of Indigenous nations throughout the area and recognize its original Indigenous inhabitants as the stewards of its lands and waters since time immemorial. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda, please? Councillor Schell and Kathy, please. All in favor? That's carried. I think we're fine. Yeah, great. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. And has everyone had a chance to read the minutes, and is everyone in favor, or are there any amendments or alterations there? All well? Okay, could I have a mover and a seconder for the minutes? Anne, I see a thumb. I'll presume that's a move. Great, wonderful. Any, can I have a seconder? Councillor Ryle. All in favor? And that's carried. Great. Wonderful. Well, Hilary, again, thank you so much for joining us from Easter Seals. We'd love to hear what you've got to say about the Access to Card program. Are you going to pull up the... Great. So your presentation should be coming up on the screen shortly, and just take it away as soon as you're ready.
Great, thank you. So my name is Hilary. I'm the program manager at the Access to Card program. So a bit of a brief background. The Access to Card program was launched in 2004 with the support from Cineplex Entertainment. Oh, sorry, I'm going ahead. And a group of national disability organizations. It has grown to approximately 100,000 cardholders nationwide, and it's managed and administered by Easter Seals Canada. It helps to improve the cardholders' social inclusion and provide access to entertainment, cultural, and recreation experiences without any additional financial burden. So anyone with a permanent disability and who requires the assistance of a support person can apply for the card. And the disability can either be visible or an invisible disability. And the card is a physical card that kind of looks like a credit card. It's a blue and red card, and it will have the cardholder's name on it, so the person with the disability, and it will have the card's expiry date. And then on the back of the card, it will have a barcode that will be scanned by Cineplex. So how the program works is when the Access to Card is shown at a venue, it will state that the person is living with a disability and requires a support person, and then their support person will be admitted for free at the venue. There are some venues that do a discounted rate, but the majority of our venues do allow free admission for the support person. And to get the card, the applicant has to submit an application form. It has 3 sections of the application form. It's section B, which is the contact information of the person with the disability, so their name, date of birth, and address. And then section C is a healthcare professional authorization. So it just determines that one of their healthcare professionals has authorized that they are living with a permanent disability. And then section D is the administration fee. So it's $20 for a 3-year card or $30 for a 5-year card. And that can be paid with a credit card payment on our website or with a check or money order. And then below are some of the venues that accept the card in Ontario, such as Cineplex, Canada's Wonderland, the CNE, and the Toronto Zoo. And we're always looking for new venues, but this is so far what we have. We have approximately just over 500 venues right now. And then for a venue who is interested in applying to participate with the program, we have a venue registration agreement. And that's also available on our website. And then once they submit the agreement to us, we'll be in contact with them and to ask more questions about how they would like to accept the access to card for their venue. Some venues do a discount, and some venues allow the card holder to have a discount as well as their support person. But mostly it's the card holder has to pay a full regular admission and the support person gets in for free. And then a list of our venues is on our website at access2card.ca under the venues tab. Or we can also email or mail a list of venues. So I went through that quickly, but does anyone have any questions about the program?
That's just great. It's wonderful to finally have a centralized way of supporting and promoting access for support people, rather than having every individual have to debate and explain every time that they've got a support person with them, and would they get a discount or could they get in for free? You know, I'm sure for a lot of people, it's a regular conversation, and this just bypasses all of that. So it's really interesting. My question is, at the venue, I had no idea you had up to 500, which is extraordinary. Will you have posters at the ticket booths of these venues saying, we accept access cards, so that maybe people who don't even know about the access card could find out from one of these venues and then go and apply, et cetera, et cetera? Is that what you do?
Right now, we just have promotional materials that each venue has, but we are working on like a sticker, a window decal that each venue can put to display on their window or door, but that's still in the works.
That's in the works. No, that's great. Are there any questions, comments? Yes, Councillor Rail.
Just a quick one. If we go to the website, would we be able to get a list of ones that are local, like for instance, within Haliburton County or within, say, 30 kilometers of Haliburton County that people could, in our area, could go visit on a regular basis?
Yes, under the venues tab, it's divided by province and then by city. I believe there's only one venue though in the area, Haliburton.
Yeah, Councillor Shell.
I was just going to say, I had gone through the venues for, and I don't even see Haliburton on the list, so, or Minden.
I think, sorry, through you, Chair Dayou.
please.
I think Eagle Lake is on the list for Sir Sam's.
Oh, yes, it's under Eagle Lake. Okay, yeah, so that's the only one I saw locally. So it'd be something for, I don't know what it would be, maybe Sir Sam's or some things as far, because they have the spa and stuff there that might be, the water therapy might be something to consider.
Yeah, great.
It's good.
Haliburton Forward. That's right. There are some spots. Any other comments or questions? Well, thank you, Hillary. As you say, it's a short presentation, but because it's such a good and simple idea, and you're well underway into implementing it, and it's excellent to know about. So thank you very much indeed for coming and sharing today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. And yep,
Great.
if anyone has any venue suggestions, please feel free to contact me and I can contact the venues to see if they would like to join.
Excellent. We will. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Now, with the indulgence of the committee, we've had a request to take item 12.1, the joint accessibility plan, and bring it up next on our agenda so that our friends from the townships can offer their ideas and then get on with their day. And I think that's a good idea. Is everyone all right with that? Okay, fabulous. So thanks to all of our townships for joining regarding the joint accessibility plan. Do you have any, Sue, any initial words that you want to say before we look to each presenter for a bit of an update on what they've been doing?
Sure. So hello, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for being able to join us today. This is the annual review that we do of the Joint Accessibility Plan. Member municipalities have shared any updates to projects that are currently on the appendix of the plan. In some cases have added new projects. And so we've updated the appendix to show what has been completed, or sometimes there's a piece of a project that has been completed or a new project altogether has been added. We've asked our colleagues to join us today to speak to some of these projects in case there are any questions. And so hoping that each, maybe we can start with Algonquin Highlands and just go through anything you'd like to share about any of the projects that have been completed or anything new that has been added to the list and plans for the next year.
That would be great. And I do see that Robin has joined us from Highlands East, which is wonderful. Thanks for being here, Robin. And we will get to you in just a few minutes. And yes, if we could start with Algonquin Highlands, that'd be superb.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. Algonquin Highlands, you'll see our updates. We had a couple projects that were completed at the Stanhope Library. That was the railing and entrance that was completed. We also have installation of swing set and pathways at our Oxtongue Community Center scheduled for 2025. One of our largest projects was during the rehabilitation of the Dorset Recreation Center. There were a number of accessible upgrades done during that renovation. And Adam Thorne, our Public Works Manager, is here if there's any questions related to the project. But there were a number of items completed: the accessible entrance ramp, accessible parking spaces, accessible main entrance door installed, washroom upgrades, and a new door to the accessible door to the workout room.
Yeah, and I can attest to the fact that it's a magnificent structure and indeed far more accessible than it was before. And those improvements are made apparent. And it's I believe another wonderful example of how accessible things can be beautiful things and are beautiful things. The entranceway at the Dorset Rec Center is absolutely lovely, and the accessibility portion of it is part of that loveliness. And that's always something to not take for granted, that we can create beauty through accessibility, and we should always strive to do so. Adam, do you have anything further you want to add on that?
Thank you for allowing me to attend this meeting. No, I have nothing to add. Just to mimic what you just said there about the accessibility at the Dorset Rec Center and how we're able to beautify the area as well as keeping in line with accessibility requirements. So it was a great project to work on, and if there's any questions that I can possibly answer today, I'd be happy to.
And then I think in Algonquin Highlands, we've also got some plans in the works. You know, we've got dreams ahead for the Stanhope Airport. And we also have, hopefully, provided council is in agreement with this budget round, which we've not finalized, we hope to be doing our drawings for the Oxtongue Lake Community Center accessibility. And remind me, was there one other building that I've just forgotten about, or is it Oxtongue Lake Community Center for this year, where the drawings are intended to be prepared?
Yes, thank you. Through yeah, so we have the airport is shovel ready for a program that will bring the building in to meet accessible needs. The Oxtongue Lake Community Center will be potentially working on some plans for that to meet the accessibility needs, and then the community center, the Stanhope Community Center as well, looking at some options there as well. The ramp on the building is does not meet the accessibility requirements, so we're looking at either redoing that or possibly putting in another lift. So there are a couple projects on the go for next year.
Yeah, for sure. Any other thoughts or comments on that from the gang? All right. Well, thanks very much for that update. It's great to see there's constant progress there in Algonquin Highlands. Very much appreciated. So maybe we could go to Dysart next. Andrea, if you're willing and able.
Sure, I'm ready. Thank you. So we've had a few projects that we've worked on. One of them was the stairs that were going between Highlands, like at the intersection of Highland and York Street, that go down into the parking lot. Those were removed, and an accessible pathway that can take people into the parking lot was created. We're continually working on Head Lake Park and some of the accessibility there. That's part was identified in the Parks Master Plan, Head Lake Park Master Plan in 2020. We've also put in an application to improve the bridge in Head Lake Park. It's in need of being replaced, and it's got quite a big arch and it's not very wide. So we've put an application in. Hopefully we're successful and we can make a wider bridge that's more accessible to everyone and still aesthetically pleasing. So fingers crossed. We do have money set aside, but it's not enough to cover the whole project. The augmentative and alternative communication boards were installed both in Rotary, on the Rotary Beach side and on the Head Lake Park side. So that's been completed. We had some updates done with garbage bins at the landfills becoming rebuilt so that they're accessible. Same with the battery recycling. We've created a spot at Head Lake Park. Just as you enter the park, there's a spot where people can return batteries without having to go to the landfills or come into the municipal office. A privy was built in Harcourt that's accessible for snowmobilers year round. It's built so it has year round access. And then the playground in Harcourt was completed and installed in the summer of this year. So we've had a lot of people out there enjoying that. The short-term rental concerns, they've switched over to a 24/7 access line, and then people can call if they need support or go online. So those are some things that are there. We've improved the, so the staff door at the library was replaced. They were having problems getting in and out of the door with the carts. So that's been replaced, as well as the whole sidewalk along the side of the library in Dysart has been fixed so that it's sloped properly and that people can get in and out of the staff door and not trip on the broken stones that are there. We've replaced, sorry. I've just got to watch. Red Pine, the public dock was replaced. That was becoming a hazard and also just making it difficult for people to get on the dock. So the dock has been made level with a ramp out to the dock. So anyone heading out to Red Pine and further has access there. We had to install some concrete ramps at the back of the medical center to make it easier for staff to come in and out and to, and again, come in and out on a level. And then we have we've requested some new doors at the arena because the one set is fine, but the other set closer to where the public water tap is and that a lot of people used to come in and out of are not great. So we've requested some money in the 2025 budget for new accessible doors there.
That's quite a list for 1 year. Really, really impressive and exciting list. Any questions and comments on that list? Yes, Councillor Shell.
I was listening and maybe I missed this, but when you were talking about the AJ LaRue Community Center, is it accessible to get upstairs yet?
No, unfortunately, it is not. That is something that a couple of years ago we requested a lift to go in there. It was turned down. It's the one thing when people call to rent that space, the first thing I tell them is that it's not accessible, and unfortunately,
Yeah, so that's yeah, something to keep an eye on for all those opportunities. Hopefully funding will come up or whatever needs to happen. That's a good point, Councillor Shar.
Hmm.
Any other questions or comments on the Dysart list? Really good stuff. Thank you very much, Andrea.
thank you.
Indeed. Vicky, do you have a report for us from Minden?
I do. Thank you for the invitation. We have quite a few projects that are under review for 2026. One of the main items is that we want to address is the ramp leading into our municipal office. Well, it's going to take a little bit longer. We have an engineer coming in to look to see how we can rectify some of those barriers that have been identified. Further, we actually completed all of the signage for the parks areas. However, our director of community services has also reported that they'd like to do a more thorough review of some of those paths to see if they can identify some other barriers and clean some of those areas up. The curling club area will be under review for 2025, pending some budget approvals. And that's just basically with respect to widening the ramp area for the main doors. And they also want to have a look at the lift that's within the facility. The library for the push button automatic door between the library and the common room. They want to have a look at that to see if there's something that they can address in the 2025 budget. And then public washrooms, we actually were able to address some of those requirements, and that is all completed and updated this year. And then the last was the Main Street. So we were talking about some of that tactile strips along the walkway, and our director of public works has advised it's estimated to be completed in 2026.
Well, that's another superb list of improvements. Yes, Councillor Shell.
Through you to Vicky, and I'm sorry to make you talk more. I know you're not feeling well.
That's okay.
Vicky, Council in Minden Hills has talked about the push buttons also for in our brand new community center doors, and I'm not seeing that on this list. Is that something is already in the works then? Is that why it's not on the list and hopefully to be completed ASAP?
Correct. I think Candace, our director of community services, has already addressed and it has been made aware. So I'm hoping if they can't address it within that budget in 2025, it will be circled back and actually be placed on the list to be fixed.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that was an oversight somehow on the builder. We have the
Right.
elevator goes up to the second floor, you get out at the doors, and then somebody has to open the door for you to get to the arenas, to the, not the ice surface, but the spectators part of the arena. So, okay, thanks, Vic.
Yeah, that's a safety thing as well, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Great. Thank you very much. And any other questions about the Minden contribution? Yes, please, Kathy. Just hit your button there.
I have a question, re the walk around across the Riverwalk, because there are sections of that are not accessible, letting people with wheelchairs, say, go onto the public docks and that sort of thing. Where does that fit into budgets?
Vicky, do you have an answer on that by any chance, or can you comment, Councillor Shell?
Are you talking about the public dock
Yeah,
that's like
okay.
right across from the post office area? Okay, I'm not sure, Vicky.
I wonder, how is Vicky frozen?
Sorry, my internet
Yeah, internet connection.
It doesn't seem to be working very well today. Can you hear me okay?
We've got you now. Yes. Try your best.
Oh, I am so sorry. So you were talking about the Riverwalk area and the dock. Was that the question I missed? It
Yes,
keeps
in the Riverwalk area, there's bumps getting onto the dock. Like to get a wheelchair onto the dock. I actually watched somebody try to go fishing last fall, and there's no place for somebody who's in an accessible wheelchair to be able to really access the water to fish. And does that fall under Minden, or is that a different project?
I can look into that. And if that does fall within Minden Hills, I'm happy to place that on for the next round to be looked at.
Great.
Thank you.
Anything further questions for Minden? Well, thank you, Vicky, very much. Robin Rogers, welcome from Highland East. Would you like to give us a bit of a breakdown on what you've been doing over there?
Yes, thank you and good afternoon, committee. It's very nice to have the invite. This is my first accessibility meeting that I'll be attending. So our highlights for 2024, we had two. We did implement a new ramp at the building department in Gooderham to make it more accessible. And that was to be, well, it was to be done in November, and I believe it has been completed. Unfortunately, I do send regrets for Jim Alden. He wasn't able to make it today. He perhaps could have spoke more to that item, but I do believe it was completed near the end of November. And the other thing was our website. It's basically is completed. I mean, we still do work towards some remediation of some PDF documents that are just, they're very huge. And so we will be having to send those out for remediation. But as we've been working through most of the documents, it's been going fairly well. And we have basically fixed a lot of the links that we did have that were broken. Some of our other items that are ongoing, of course, is just the training, of course, because as we know with the plan, there's, implementation and things to be completed in certain years. So we continue to do that, the training with new staff, to continue just with, training with the regular staff. One of our most recent developments, and I'm sure you have seen it on our list, is Herlihy Park, which has been ongoing. But we can happily say that just at our council meeting yesterday, that it was approved to have Francis Thomas Contracting to come in and begin some landscape development. So basically parking lot, that sort of thing, just moving the soil around, because it has been a while in the making, as I'm sure our Deputy Mayor Rael can contest to, but it's nice to finally see that some progress is going to begin on the park and to see it come to, well, become a park. But anyways, that is basically the majority. Our highlights, like I said, were the two. But I did definitely want to mention about Herlihy Park because it is kind of a nice shining light there to see that we're getting started on that. So, but that's all I have to report.
And hot off the press. That's really good news. Thanks very much. Councillor Rael, do you have anything you want to add to that, or?
Well, I think Robin kind of hit on the fact that Herlihy Park is going to be a big deal. And we're going to be putting a fair amount of money into that this year. But again, it's in the very early stages. I think that right now the idea is just to get some basic excavation work done. But I can pretty well tell you that the parking lot, all of the walkways and trails they're going to go through are definitely all going to be accessibility prone. We've looked at, but not included at this point in time, signage that would be compatible at the time. But unfortunately, we're not ready for signage yet. We still have to get the trails in to give you a direction on where you're going to go. So there's going to be future plans for Herlihy Park. I think once the contractor has been secured and everything is in place, we'll get a much better idea of where is it going to go once we get an idea of what's going to be done.
Very good. Questions for Highlands East? Yes, Sue, do you have a?
Yes, through you, Councillor Dayu. Just a note that to everyone, when if there are updates to infrastructure or parks, public spaces, if a development proposal could come to committee for review and comment, or site plans when available, it's much appreciated by the committee to take a look as early as possible in the process, as the process allows.
Yeah, and actually that reminds me of something that we've got on the docket in Algonquin Highlands. Hasn't been approved through the budget process yet, which is probably why it's not on this list. We need that final seal before we move ahead. But our very strong hope is that we'll be able to initiate a parking master plan in the coming budget period to look at all of our parking spaces, water access along public roads. There are some real congestion spots, and we want to come up with a solution for them because there are certain areas that are getting pretty serious. And once we start talking about a parking master plan with more of a formalized means of offering parking, the natural question that comes up is, where does accessibility fit into all of this? So that is another thing that it isn't part of our official year ahead yet, because our budget isn't passed, but it's very much what we hope to see happen. If not this year, then in very soon thereafter in the following years. So fingers crossed, and should that come this year, I'm sure we'll be bringing it as soon as we can to Accessibility Committee. Yeah. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for your inputs. It's been a great year, and we're off to another great year in terms of the work ahead to make our county more accessible. So thank you to you all for coming and reporting in with your good news. And Sue, do you have another comment?
I do. Just a note on the in the appendix, the county projects. We should speak to those as well. So just in terms of accessible documents, staff report and council agenda templates have been updated with accessibility measures. We did make some changes just in terms of where some projects are assigned to. And just also noting that we are working on all incoming staff goes through accessibility training, but we're also looking into further training that might be helpful for staff, even around things like language. We can certainly share that with the committee when we have more information. At this committee, we have looked into having more speakers. So Hillary this morning was one of those speakers that we invited to speak to the Easter Seals Access to Card program for the benefit of community. And we also had earlier in the year a physical therapist from Five Counties Children's Center. But always looking for more people who would like to come to committee and share ideas, projects, or their lived and living experience of barriers in the community. The communication board, as noted, has been designed and installed in Dysart. The press release for that communication board went out this week, I believe. So hopefully some coverage coming in local media to share more information about its purpose. And then just about this building, there are some changes being planned for both this building as well as the land registry building across the road. So those site plans will come to the accessibility committee in 2025, I believe at the February meeting. So just wanted to share those updates as well. And then the next note included on this agenda item is just the accessibility accomplishments page. So we've pulled some of the projects from this appendix to be included on the 2024 accessibilities accomplishments sort of one-pager, which will be included on the county website and shared with member municipalities. So thanking everyone here for their work in updating the appendix and taking a look at that accessibility accomplishments page, and noting that we will add the Dorset Rec Center project to that accessibility accomplishments page. But really grateful to everyone for the work being done in each of the municipalities.
Great. Any final thoughts or comments? Well, I'd love to thank our visitors once again for your contributions. And could I please have a mover and a seconder to receive the Halliburton Accessibility Plan and to recommend the accessibility accomplishments document be posted on the county website? Mover and a seconder from Councillor Royale and Councillor Shell. Thank you. All in favor? And that's carried. Right. Thanks, colleagues from our townships, and we will see you in the new year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Thanks. And we're back. Great. So back to the regular schedule. Business arising from the previous meeting. The stopgap project, is there a verbal update that you got for us?
Yes, so at the last meeting, staff was asked to reach out to the stopgap project, to anybody at that project who could speak. I know we have a lot of questions about the project and how to implement it here. So I was able to speak to Luke Anderson from Stopgap, and he is actually at another accessibility committee meeting today, but will be able to attend in February. So he will be able to offer a presentation, share more about the project at that time, and we're also able to ask questions. He did ask that if we have questions in advance that we can send him. If there's anything he might need to prepare for, then he'd be happy to accept those. So feel free to discuss here, I suppose, or send along to me, and I'm happy to send to him. But he is scheduled to attend in February.
That's great. I think the key question that I would have is how has Stopgap structured partnerships with other townships and counties in terms of funding and organization and implementation and all of those other things? If there were just some key things that we should know from the get-go that would facilitate that, if he could come with that pre-stocked in his mind, that would be really helpful.
Sounds good. He did note that they have worked with, I believe, Bruce County or Huron County in that area, just in terms of rural communities. And I believe there are two different ways that we can go about implementing the project. One is through municipalities and one is through community efforts separately, but he'll be able to speak more to that in February.
Okay, that's great. So what I might also ask, and I'll follow up with Gary too, but if Gary is able to, CAO of Halliburton County, Gary Dyke, if he's able to join us for that part of the presentation, I think that might just, you know how long some things take to get going, and it could be that we could jump a step ahead by having the right people in the room. Yeah, that'd be great. Any other ideas or questions we want to ask Stopgap before they come? I'm sure they've done this so many times that they'll be able, they'll know, you know, just instinctively what we probably are going to want to know on the day. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, we'll look forward to seeing them then. Great. So we are moving our way quickly through. We've got next the site plan checklist to look at. A lovely tick box reminder of things that you know are all of our departments need to think about as they are working through their work. Do you want to walk us, because we've seen this before, so do you want to talk us through it returning to our table today?
So yes, through you, Councillor Dayu. It has returned to the table because we wanted to include the imperial measurements. I will note that in the draft copy in front of you, we now have another draft copy. I brought the document to our Public Works Department to look at what works best from their perspective. And so we do now have another draft, which has all of the imperial measurements added after the metric measurements in inches. And so it was their recommendation that the measurements be consistent. And so there is one final draft, but if the rest of the document it looks to, if there's any questions or concerns about the rest of the document that we can change, this is our most final document, except for that last measurement change.
Thanks. Presuming all those millimeters are turned to inches, any final thoughts on this list before it is sealed and etched onto stone? Yes, please, Councillor Shell.
I have a question through you that probably Sue can answer this. So on the last one, it says beaches and trails and accessible recreational trails or beach access routes. So what if currently a municipality has responsibility for a beach that is not accessible? What is the regulations around that? Current regulations, I guess you'd say, because I mean, it's been there for obviously hundreds of years, but yeah, like, I don't even know how it could ever become accessible. So I'm just wondering, is it something that maybe shouldn't be considered a public beach if it's not accessible?
Through you, Councillor Dayu, that's a great question. I would have to take it back and maybe it's something to speak to our Parks and Rec coordinators with at each of the townships. But I'll take it back and bring forward further information. I think I might have an idea. Absolutely. Sure. Sounds good.
And we did in previous meetings, we have talked about trails, the one in Minden, but also thinking about more broadly about the recreation trails that we've got throughout the county. And I did note that we're not quite there when it comes to the list of achievements that we've just been through and things upcoming for the future. And it is, I think, worthwhile to go back to our councils and to our staff and should have done so when they were there on the screen to remind them about the importance of our trail system and to be constantly on the lookout for those opportunities. It's something perhaps that we as council members can commit to taking back and reminding everyone. Trails are up at our budget time every year. There's something to be done with the trails, so it could and should be added perhaps to the list of considerations. Not that every trail can be made accessible, but what is it that we might do just where possible, beaches and trails and docks and landings. And, yeah. Yes.
If I may, Councillor Dayu, I believe at the last meeting there was a recommendation when we spoke to some of the presentations we'd like to see at committee. There was a recommendation for some of the Parks and Trails managers or those responsible for that piece to come forward and present on what's already potentially available.
That's right.
And then speak to any of the barriers that and how we're working on those as well. So that's on the to-do list for sure.
Okay, great.
And hopefully something we can hear about in 2025.
Perfect. Anything further than on the list? Yes, Councillor Rail.
Yeah, I'm just looking at, and you're saying we're going to correct the millimeters to show the inches or feet, whatever makes sense at the time. I'm wondering, can we do the same thing with the ratios of 1 to 10? If that could be all in brackets 10%, because a lot of people can relate to the actual degrees as not. And I guess my next loaded question is, when can we get our hands on this puppy and get it out to our various staff? Because we're going to be looking at Hurley Park. And Hurley Park is, as we said, we just announced the contractor for that. And I certainly would like to be able to get all this information in place so we can go to the contractor, and then as they're going through it, they can make sure they've addressed it, even in initial designing, so that when it comes before the board, it's already been dealt with more or less.
Thanks for that, Councillor Ryle, and through you, Councillor Dayu. I believe this checklist would need to come to council first for review, and then after that, we can distribute it, and it can be out there helping everyone do the work we want to do.
Good news. All right, thank you. Now, do we have? Hold on a minute. Switching screens. Do we? No, there's no resolution with regard to how. Yeah, Sure, hold on, let me just get sure, what is the resolution?
I'm proposing that I add as amended with the comments from Sue, so that the site plan checklist as amended be received and that the committee use this document going forward when reviewing and providing comments on site plans.
Great, could I have a mover and a seconder for that? Kathy and Councillor Rail? All in favor? Anne, are you happy with that too? You are? Okay, great. Yes, that's all in favor. That's carried. Thank you. So I believe that wraps us up for 2024. Am I mistaken there? I think that's what we've got. Wonderful. So our next meeting is in February the 12th, 1 p.m. And I look forward to it. Thank you very much for this meeting and for this year. You know, we don't meet very often, but I do feel like we take a good bite of the pie when we do meet, and that's really important. And over the course of the term, we're getting some great stuff done, and our townships are getting great stuff done, and in part because we're here to remind them and to you know to invite them to report and to keep it on you know on top of their minds when staff and council are going through these projects and changes in our townships. So thanks very, very much for your commitment to the committee this year, and we look forward to seeing you next year. So may I have a motion to adjourn? Kathy and Councillor Schell. All in favor? Magnificent. Well, thanks again, everybody, and we will see you in February.